Welcome to this issue of the podcast. My name is Richard Smith. You can find out more about me over at therichardsmith.com. Hi, Richard Smith here from therichardsmith.com. Welcome to the Thursday issue of the podcast, October 2020. Oh my God, it's been an interesting year so far, isn't it? And it seems not to be getting any easier. But I digress. Post-COVID lockdown. Now we've got mini lockdowns coming. This is the new normal. I think the quicker we accept that this is the new normal, the better it's going to be for all of us, particularly if we're running small or micro businesses. The quicker we get our heads around the fact that we need to be doing business in a slightly different way, or a very different way, to be bloody honest about it, then the quicker we can start to move forward. Certainly with the clients I'm currently working with, we're poking each bit of the business processes to say, well, okay, if this COVID situation continues and we have a lack of direction from the government and no real help to make it better for all of us, i.e. an unlockdown with some sort of vaccine, I don't think that's a real thing, I'll be honest with you. I think it's just a myth. But what are we going to do? How are we going to change this? And so I've been looking at all these things and I want to cover some of those issues with you today. Certainly are going to be looking at having more online delivery, more click and collect, more engagement online. I think that is where most of it's going. Certainly we look at what's happening with the larger retailers, not saying they'll get it right, not saying you should be doing the same thing, but there is a clear move to online and click and collect in particular, which seems to be working very well. I've got a small retailer in West Sussex, which is doing incredibly well on click and collect. Quite literally, people can just drive by and pick up exactly what it is they want or whatever it is they've ordered. We've also got a situation where e-shops, e-commerce engines are available, pretty anywhere you look at relatively low cost. Certainly, given the 20 or 30 grand entrance costs we were seeing over the past 5 or 6 years, it's now possible to get these things up and running really for less than £1,000. And I've been doing a lot of work in that and did have an e-commerce product. And the key to that really is about having really good web hosting and with the WordPress installations or even the Drupal installations that are available, with a little bit of fiddling, we're able to get these up and running relatively quickly and at very low cost. But also the security fears and data loss fears can also be resolved quite easily. So, if you're thinking about moving a part of your business online, then really don't fear that, because that's certainly a viable option, and it's a sort of option that most customers kind of expect in there, particularly with the click and collect and particularly with the delivery option. So I certainly think if you're selling a product, then that's a way for you to go. But even if you're not selling a product, with more online working and file sharing, and which means less clients visits, which you might be driving a bit less, but you're going to be obviously spending a bit more on tech. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think having this belly to belly contact, this engagement with people is really quite important. It's important for all of us. We are human beings after all, and we're used to having that bit of interaction. So I think that the downsides are that we are not spending as much time belly to belly as we should, but the bonus is, of course, we don't waste so much time travelling between appointments. And certainly one of the accountants and the financial advisor I'm involved with in terms of their business development, it's kind of working out fairly well. It's making a little bit of sense. But as I say, the downside is that there is going to be a bit more increased spend in tech, and also things like encryption need to be sorted out. The positive, of course, to all of this is that it's change, and I think change is a good thing. It forces us to think, it forces us to do things differently, it forces us to consider carefully where we're at and why we're doing things in a particular way, and whether or not we can make those more efficient. It's a bit of a funny word, efficient. What does that mean, efficient? Is efficiency necessarily a good thing? I don't believe it is on its own, but what we're able to do is to certainly work in a slightly different way, which, providing you get it right, should be good for all of us. Google My Business. You may have seen this. It's something that I've been very aware of for the past 10 years. I think that's how long it's been available. Might be 9, might even be 8, but it's certainly, considerable amount of time. These are the listings you see that were only available on Google Maps, but Google's now moved these GMB listings, the Google My Business listings, to the front page. So you'll normally see, when you do a search for a business, you'll see the adverts first, and then you'll see the Google Business listings. In the second third of the landing page on the google.co.uk website, and this is a really valuable tool. If you've not used this yet, I'm having great success with clients of getting the messages in front of a lot more clients, and we're also getting a hell of a lot more click-throughs, and we're getting a hell of a lot more engagement from these Google My Business listings. Now, I'm not going to say to you that this is particularly easy to sort out. I'm not saying they're particularly easy to get on the front page, but if you spend a bit of time on this, then they will certainly add some value. A couple of things. If you get it right, you're going to be getting a front page listing in many instances. You're going to get to the front page of Google for your business search terms in many instances. You can add content to them. You can showcase your work, which of course means that you're putting it directly in front of your customer rather than hoping they're going to find it on a web search or hoping they're going to find it on a social media listing. So it certainly adds some value from there. You can also collect reviews and endorsements, which appear as the front page of your Google listings. And I can assure you that if you're the business that's got 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 or 1,000 reviews on your Google My Business listing, you're going to be the firm that's picking up the work in a whole layer of various competing organisations. The one that's got 20 reviews or 30 reviews or 1,000 reviews is going to be the one that is going to be getting most of the work. I can absolutely assure you of that, because customers are looking to have their hands held to be guided by what they find online. And these Google My Business listings, I'm not saying they're the panacea, but they're certainly a really, really viable option for you to start focusing on. If you do anything online, then I would suggest that you start there first. Yeah, of course, pitch coming, we do have a product, I do have a service where we can take these on and manage them for you. But at the moment, I'm going to put a sort of link in the show notes to some of the stats on this, which is really quite interesting. 5, 6, 7,000 visits, 15, 20, 30 phone calls on a monthly basis, all from one pretty ordinary listing. But the thing is, it's good for engaging with new clients, but also with old clients. And honestly, the stats are impressive. The good news is, the even better news for this is most of the people listening to this, most local firms won't do anything about it. They'll think it's just another one of those things. They'll think it's just something else that they really can't be bothered to do because it didn't work like the last lots. But I can assure you that the stats are impressive on this if you get this right and start to focus on these Google My Business listings. Importantly, from Google's point of view, they are heavily promoting this, certainly in the United States, where this has started to become a slightly different tool. It's a paid for option, or there is a paid for option in the US. And from what I've been reading online, they are getting some good traction, and it's working. But as I say, even better news for most of you is that most firms won't bother with this. They won't do it. But look, if your business can get 100 great reviews, if it's fully populated with information, and if you're an online shop, possible vouchers, and if you're updating it with fresh and non-salesy content, your competitors are going to take a long while to catch up with you. And if you're not doing this, then I urge you to get on board with your Google My Business stuff ASAP, because this is going to be one part of the future. And certainly with the new algorithm changes to the main google.co.uk, the Google worldwide search results, search engine optimization is kind of taking a back seat, because it's going to be harder and harder to be able to get a top page ranking, unless of course you're using Google My Business and engaging through that. Bottom line here is, this is Google's business. This is, they decide how it's going to work, and everybody else is just, hitching their hitching their wagon to the Google engine, if you like. So, social media, a lot of people call me the anti-social media expert because I have kind of had this nag about social media and whether or not it's just a bloody time sink or whether it actually adds any value. And I'm still kind of mixed about it. I'm still not really sure one way or the other about whether or not it's actually a valuable tool. But I certainly think there is some value in raising your profile on social media, but it's certainly not the one tool that changes everything for business. Sure, it makes sense for you to have a presence. That said, it's a time sink and it can be addictive. More importantly, I think for most businesses, it's going to produce limited results for you. But if you consider the changes in recent years, for example, let's look at Facebook. A few years ago, it used to show your business posts and promotions to all of your followers. Now it doesn't. Similar rules in place over at Instagram, all being driven by the algorithm. And I think we're going to see more and more of these shifts coming in, which means that as an owner of content, an owner of a promotional tool, you're going to be getting less and less traction, less and less mileage from the fuel you'll put in via posting. And also this issue about engagement, and everyone, all the gurus go, oh, it's about engagement. Well, actually, it isn't about engagement because who is really engaging with your content, and what do they do next, which is the key. Most people using social platforms just use social platforms. They don't necessarily go anywhere with it. They don't necessarily do anything with it. And it's obviously all controlled by the large tech firms. So you have to be careful how much time you actually spend on producing content. And one answer that I've come up with, which is kind of working, is to just to follow this step. So initially to focus on your customer, what you can share with them, and how much value you can add. What are their problems, and how you go about solving their problems. That content needs to be multi-purpose, so it needs to be broken down into usable trunks, into usable chunks, mini posts, and then use automated tools to slowly drip that content out. But also to then use that same content in larger chunks as information on your website, articles, podcasts, short videos, and then cross-share all of that on social media. More importantly, then make sure you use that same content to engage and fire up existing customers. Everyone says, "Oh, email is so last year." And I can assure you that you can't pay a gas bill without an email address nowadays. So everybody has an email address, and people do read their emails. Believe it or not, people do read their emails. Most important information now is disseminated down via email. Really important, bite you on the bum type stuff, that still comes in the post. The revenue letters still arrive in the post. So that's still important. But more importantly, email is the sort of second most important for valuable content. And I'm not talking about just squirting stuff out for the sake of it. I'm not talking about just sending a message because you can. I'm talking about taking all that stuff all that valuable content you have, and squirting that out via email makes more sense now than ever, particularly in this post-COVID-19 world, where, as I say, everything has bloody changed. But also, same as email, SMS, WhatsApp, all of these allow you to keep control of the conversation, to keep control of your customer, and you can message them directly. They do want to hear from you, really. They want to know about your product and services. They really are interested. And if you were going to treat every customer as though they were going to be a customer for 100 years, you'd have a very different conversation with them. If you make an assumption that that new customer that comes into your business is going to be dealing with your children when they take over the business in 20 or 30 or 40 years' time, it's a very different way of doing business. And I'll be honest with you, not only is local business going to be I believe is going to be the way forward, but also this ownership of a customer for a lifetime is going to be more important now than ever. There's environmental benefits, there's social benefits. Having a business that's based in a local geographic area, dealing with local people, providing local services makes a lot of sense. I don't care what the globalists say. I think the globalists are very wrong. But from your point of view, if you can, own a geographic area using Google My Business, and you can own a customer base or some customer information so you can contact those people on a regular basis and engage with them and offer them deals and offers and show them what they need to be doing next, how to solve their problems, that's going to be the right way forward. So if you treat every customer as though they are going to be with you for 100 years, you will do business in a very different way, and also you'll start to hold on to those customers for a lot longer. They won't necessarily look elsewhere because Bob's the guy that does my whatever. Oh, I buy my X from wherever. And this is where you can start to maintain a market share and grow your business accordingly. Importantly, when you're looking at doing business on this basis, what a nice way to do business, to go back to a customer that you did work for last year, or a customer you did some work for last month, and or to go and see, Pauline that lives at number 20, who you supply fruit and vegetables to every week, or this is Mrs. Jones, you clean their gutters, for them twice a year. That has to be a better way of doing business than constantly chasing, constantly having to push and hustle. So treat every customer as though they're going to be a customer for 100 years. Value them, look after them, nurture them. So next month I'm going to be doing a bit about Facebook advertising. I've been running some ads on Facebook in order to test a couple of bits and pieces. It's not the easiest thing in the world to use or to do. I certainly think using Facebook is harder than using Google AdWords if you're a small business owner, but the targeting options and the way the final thing is put together kind of makes a bit more sense. So how am I faring? Yes, I'm producing some solid inquiries on a range of products and services using Facebook. It is particularly cheap at the moment, and I think that's because we're in this sort of post-COVID fuck, wherever we are with COVID, but it's certainly working. And I also think that the disengagement that I assume Facebook has with advertising doesn't really exist. If you can get the right content out there, get the right message out there, Facebook advertising works equally as good as any other form of advertising. Advertising and sales are two different things. So marketing, getting the message out there, the Facebook advertising, paid for advertising, is just one part of the mix. Of course, we've covered some of the other bits and pieces in this and the other podcasts. But Facebook advertising is a very specific tool, if you like, within the overall marketing spend. Anyway, my name is Richard Smith. You can find out more about me over on richardsmith.com. You can also have a look at some of the Google My Business stuff over on smallbusinessninja.co.uk/GMB. If you've liked the stuff, get in touch, let us know. If you want to hear some specific content or my spin on some of this stuff, then please get in touch through either of the websites. And of course, leave me a really lovely review, or not, as the case. If you want to be nasty, go ahead, on particularly on iTunes, because that works really well for the search indexing of this particular podcast, or all of the podcasts. And so stay safe, and let's focus on getting the change. Welcome to this issue of the podcast. My name is Richard Smith. You can find out more about me over at therichardsmith.com.